By late 1944, the Luftwaffe was desperate. They launched the Volksjäger program, demanding a jet that could be built in furniture factories by unskilled laborers. In Act 1, we look at the insane engineering of the HE-162. To save space and weight, the BMW turbojet engine was bolted directly on top of the pilot's head. The plane was held together by Tego film glue, but when the factory producing it was bombed, engineers switched to a cold-setting acidic glue. This act explores the illegal haste of the project, a machine that was pushed into production before the engineers even knew if the glue would hold the wings on. By early 1945, the HE-162 Salamander was being pumped out of underground salt mines, but it carried a hidden, illegal defect in its very DNA. The original high-quality glue, Tego film, was no longer available because the factory had been wiped off the map by Allied bombers. In a desperate move, engineers switched to a cold-setting acidic glue. This segment explores the chemical time bomb inside the wings. The acid in the glue didn't just bond the wood, it ate it. We detail the terrifying reality for pilots. Every minute spent in the air was a gamble against a structural dissolve. The act focuses on the most famous failure of the program, the public demonstration of the first prototype. In front of Nazi high command, the wing's leading edge simply peeled away during a high-speed pass. The pilot, Gotthold Peter, had no ejection seat and no time. The illegal haste of the design meant he was trapped in a wooden box that was disintegrating at 500 miles per hour. We also look at the forbidden training of the Hitler Youth. These were teenagers with barely any flight hours, expected to fly a twitchy, unstable jet. The flight controls were so sensitive that a single panicked jerk of the stick would snap the wooden tail assembly off instantly. By the final blood-soaked weeks of the war, the HE-162 Salamander had transitioned from a desperate blueprint into a terrifying wooden reality. At the hidden forest airfields of Lech, near the Danish border, the elite pilots of Jagdgeschwader 1 were living a nightmare of illegal survival. With the Luftwaffe's massive concrete bases reduced to lunar landscapes by Allied bombers, these wooden jets were pushed under the canopy of pine trees, hidden by netting and sheer luck. The technical audacity of the BMW WWII engine was a constant shadow over every mission. Because the engine was bolted directly onto the spine of the aircraft, the intake sat just inches behind the pilot's head. This created an acoustic nightmare. The scream of the turbine was so deafening that pilots reported losing their hearing after just a few sorties. But the noise was the least of their worries. If the engine suffered a compressor stall or a turbine blade failure, events made common by the low-grade metals used in production, the engine became a directional pipe bomb aimed straight at the pilot's neck. The true illegal horror of the Salamander lay in its flight characteristics. While it could reach speeds that shocked British Tempest and Mustang pilots, it was a machine that demanded absolute perfection from a pilot who had no time to learn it. We explore the visceral sensation of control surface flutter. Because the wings were made of wood and held together by unstable, acidic glue, the plane would begin to vibrate as it approached its top speed. Pilots describe the sensation as the plane trying to shake its own skin off. If a pilot pulled too many Gs in a turn, or if the atmospheric moisture had weakened the glue in the wings, the leading edge would simply peel away, sending the wooden jet into a terminal high-speed spin that no human could recover from. This led to the inclusion of one of the most controversial and advanced features of the era, the explosive ejection seat. This was state-of-the-art desperation in its purest form. In any other aircraft, a pilot could simply slide the canopy back and jump, but the Salamander's top-mounted engine made this a death sentence. Jumping meant being instantly inhaled and shredded by the jet intake. The solution was a primitive catapult system powered by an explosive charge.
We dive into the harrowing physics of these early ejections. The force required to clear the tail fin was so violent that it frequently resulted in crushed vertebrae or internal hemorrhaging. Furthermore, the timing had to be perfect. If the canopy, also held together by rushed fasteners, didn't jettison a fraction of a second before the seat fired, the pilot would be launched head-first through the plexiglass. It was a rescue system that felt more like an execution. As the Allied ground forces tightened the noose around Germany, the production of the Salamander retreated into the deep shadow, the salt mines of Tarthon and Nordhausen. Here, the story takes its darkest turn into the illegal workforce. Thousands of slave laborers, many from the Dora Mittelbau concentration camps, were forced into freezing, pitch-black tunnels to assemble these jets. The humidity in these mines was a silent saboteur. While the laborers worked under the threat of death, the very air they breathed was destroying the aircraft. The moisture caused the acidic Tago film substitute glue to lose its bonding strength before the planes even reached the surface. The scene was a surreal vision of industrial chaos. Rows of half-finished wooden wings stacked next to cutting-edge turbojets, all while Allied bombers circled thousands of feet above, cutting off the power and oxygen to the tunnels. Many salamanders were sealed into these mines forever, entombed in the very earth that was supposed to hide them. The final days of the project were defined by a great surrender and a frantic, illegal scramble for technology. When British troops finally reached the airfield at Lech, they didn't find a fleet of superweapons. They found a graveyard of wooden ghosts sitting silently in the grass. The German crews, following final orders, had attempted to sabotage the planes, but many were simply left as they were, fuel tanks dry, engines seized, and wooden wings rotting in the spring rain. This was the start of Operation Lusty, where American and British whizzers, specialized intelligence teams, raced to capture the jets before the Soviets could. They were fascinated by the disposable nature of the craft. Post-war testing by Allied pilots revealed the terrifying truth of the people's fighter. American test pilots who took the captured HE-162s into the sky over Wright Field reported that the plane felt like flying a razor blade. It was incredibly fast and responsive, but it possessed a vicious stall and a tendency for the engine to flame out without warning. They realized that the Salamander was never meant to be a sustainable aircraft. It was the first truly disposable weapon of the jet age. It was a machine built to fly once, strike a bomber, and be discarded. A chilling reflection of a regime that viewed both its technology and its people as expendable. Today, the few surviving salamanders in museums stand as stainless steel and plywood monuments to a time when engineering was fueled by madness, held together by acid, and destined to vanish into the ashes of history.